Did you do it?
Good evening and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Drasic, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you, Damian?
I am fine, thank you. I just got out of the pool.
Nice. I'm a little jealous. That's my favorite
No,
place.
you shouldn't be. I went down the water slide and it all went wrong.
Oh, no. Is that a story or?
It's not what I'm going to tell here.
That's probably good.
But many 6-year-olds at Wheeling Park were pointing and laughing at the elderly man.
and, the whole town's children were traumatized. They'll say, yes, we remember.
You know, they were amused. They were amused. Yeah.
We remember this.
All right, so
I am in Thomas.
We've got
and did I fade out?
You're getting a little twitchy there. Who do we have tonight? Tell me who you got.
Well, tonight we have Michael Dittman coming on the show. You want to read?
Wait a second. Michael Dittman? Do you mean Michael Dittman, the professor of English and creative writing who lives and writes near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, surrounded by the palimpsest of the Appalachian Rust Belt?
That's him.
You mean the author of Jack Kerouac, a biography, masterpieces, The Beat Generation, Small Brutal Incidents, and the recently released from Manta Press, Who Holds the Devil? That's Michael Dittman?
Yes, that's him.
The Michael Dittman who's been awarded the Hicks Prize for Poetry, the Small Distribution Lannan Literary Grant, a Pennsylvania Arts Council Special Stipend Grant Award, a Pennsylvania Artist in Education Grant, and many other things. He's also a National Poetry Slam Semi-Finalist and performed spoken word with the Lollapalooza tour. That Michael Dittman.
I believe that's him. Though it could be another one. I don't know. Let's bring him out and find out.
All right, let's meet Michael Dittman.
Okay.
Or are you the real Michael Dittman?
I am. Hey, thank you, Christina and David. How are you two?
We're what? Wait a second. You know what? This is also the Michael Dittman who is the poetry editor for Appalachian Lit.
I am indeed, very proudly so, the poetry editor of Appalachian Lit. Absolutely.
Very cool.
And also, we should add, you've been on our show before, but you've always read poetry. Tonight, you're going to read fiction. You want to tell us about your new book?
A very special night. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, this is great.
You share that book cover with our Who Holds the Devil? Very cool cover.
Looks great.
Yeah, you did a wonderful job with the cover. It looks great. I couldn't be happier.
Excellent. Looking forward to hearing
to us tonight from your book.
I'm sorry, what's that?
What will you be reading tonight?
I'm glad you asked. So we have a book, a horror book, a genre book, with a variety of characters within it. We have Aaron Moody, who is a down on his luck sort of researcher for a novelist, who's at sort of a low point in his life. We have Evanora LaCosta, who's a queer witch, and we have Mr. B the cat, all of who make appearances in this particular section. In this section tonight, Aaron Moody has had an oak tree fall down on his wall, and about if I may digress, several years ago, I live in Butler, Pennsylvania, and across the street from me is the place where a man named Sam Mohawk was buried after he murdered a family and then was hanged. The place where I live now used to be an orchard, and no one wanted his body, so they brought him out into the middle of nowhere, buried him, and planted an oak tree on top of him. Then 5 years ago, once I had been here for a couple of years, the city decided to cut that oak down on the night before Halloween. Yeah, right. I'm not superstitious, but that seemed like an awful idea. And so that was sort of the germ of what became this novel. And in this sort of the event that gets things kicked off in the novel is the bringing down of that oak tree onto my character, Aaron Moody's wall in front of his house, which crushes it and sends him spiraling off into a bureaucratic nightmare until eventually he ends up in a sub-basement in the old city hall, full of mysterious people who may or may not actually be in charge of everything that actually goes on supernatural wise in the city. And so I'll be reading from that section tonight.
Awesome. Right. Thanks. We'll be back.
Okay. This is Aaron speaking. I had settled down by 8 that night. Mr. B, the cat, had decided that he had more important work to do than to sit with me and had stood at the door mewing until I let him out. As I sat back down to the couch, my phone vibrated again. I didn't even bother to check the number this time. Hello? Mr. Moody? This is Ruby. I'm sorry, who? Ruby from City Hall? The receptionist? Oh, right. I'm sorry. Hi, Ruby. What can I do for you? Well, I told you I'd call, Mr. Moody. Okay. They're here tonight, Mr. Moody. The basement department is open. Tonight? Now? It's after 8. I told you, Mr. Moody, they don't keep regular hours. If you want to talk to them, now's your chance. I sighed. Okay, thanks, Ruby. I'll be right down. This is ridiculous, I thought to myself as I stooped to put on my shoes. All I wanted was to get my wall fixed. After weeks of the runaround, I ended up going to Old City Hall at night to meet some strange division of the government because an old lady sitting at a card table told me they might be able to help. My life really was spiraling out of control. On the other hand, I thought, palming my key fob, what did I have to lose? The street light outside of Old City Hall was out. A glow came from inside the front doors. Would the doors even be unlocked this time of night, I wondered, then shrugged as the knob turned and the door clicked open. Ruby sat at her post. It was the first time I'd ever seen her alone. She smiled as she recognized me coming down the hall. Mr. Moody, she said in a stage whisper, you made it. Yeah, thanks for calling me. You really think they can help? I think so, Mr. Moody. I really do. They're one of the oldest departments here, and they really know how to get things done. They know just the right people to ask. Where all the bodies are buried, I said, trying to joke and immediately regretting it. Something like that, she said. You better get going. Okay, so just down the stairs? No, you have to take the elevator, she said, pointing to the black iron bird cage. No, I don't. Really? I don't think that still works. In fact, I swear there was a do not use sign on it the last time I was here. Well, it's the best way, she said, shrugging. Okay, I said. I really wanted that wall fixed. December had been mild so far, but I'd worked with enough contractors to know that once the real winter ice and snow came, they'd say, nah, we're going to have to wait until spring. Once spring arrived, they would say, nah, we're all booked up with projects. Or worse, they would show up one day, yellow tape everything off, make a mess, and then disappear for several months. I wanted to deal with that scenario even less than I wanted to ride the death trap bird cage. I stepped in and pulled the gate behind me. There were no buttons, but just as I was trying to figure out how to make the elevator move, the machine jerked hard and then descended to 2 floors below. A sub-basement? How did a building this old even have a sub-basement? I pulled the cage back open and walked to the only door at the end of the short hall. It was unlabeled. Did no one in this building ever think of nameplates or stencils? Why was every door I needed to open a blank door? Well, grasp the nettle, I thought, and I reached out. The dry winter air had built a static charge and a tiny spark shot into my hand. I jumped and muttered under my breath, then twisted the doorknob, opened the door, and stepped inside. The room was small and claustrophobic. Green shaded lights, the kind that might appear over a pool table in an old movie, dimly lit the space. In front of me, 7 men and women shuffled and stamped and dropped papers into pneumatic tubes with an efficiency that seemed like pantomime. No one registered my presence. I took a step forward and stood at the counter. Still, no one acknowledged I was there. I cleared my throat, and the man closest to me stopped collating and looked at me. Yes? Hi, Ruby sent me? Because? Oh, I have a problem. Request, actually. Which is? So, a few weeks ago, a tree fell on the wall in front of my house. It's part of the wall that runs in front of all the houses in the neighborhood. Which neighborhood? Institute Hill. Was it an oak? Oh, yes. Yeah, it was. How did you? And a man was killed. Yeah, that's right. You do know what I'm talking about. So why are you here? I want the city to repair my wall because it was a city crew. They brought that tree down without the proper paperwork. Yes, that's right. For the first time in weeks, I felt like someone was actually listening to me. For the first time, I felt like something might be accomplished. Well, Mr. Moody, Aaron Moody. Well, Mr. Moody, we could help you. Are you serious? That's wonderful. But look, I don't think I should have to pay to have, well, these things don't just happen, Mr. Moody. Wheels must be greased. Tribute must be paid, if you understand what I'm saying. A bribe? You're flat out asking me to pay a bribe to get my wall fixed that the city destroyed in the first place? The man shrugged his shoulders. Nothing is free in this world, Mr. Moody. We all make sacrifices. Yeah, fine. I was sick of it all. How much is this going to cost me? Above and beyond the taxes that I already pay faithfully, like an honest citizen. I think meat. I'm sorry, meat. 7 nice thick porterhouses, well marbled, no less than 18 ounces each, and no wet age. Nothing from a big box store, quality meat from a local farm. You're asking for a bribe in beef. He shrugged and went back to collating. I waited a moment, but it was once again as if I were invisible. I went back to the elevator and rode up, slowly this time, as if an elderly fisherman was reeling me in. Well, Ruby asked. She was all smiles and wafts of overly strong rose perfume. They asked for a bribe. Oh, good. Good? Well, that means things will move ahead now. You can leave the tribute with me. I'll make sure it gets to them. She lowered her voice. Was it meat or wine? Meat, I said, thoroughly confused. Oh, that is a good sign. Congratulations, Mr. Moody. Have a good night. I drove home in a fog of confusion. I should report them, I thought. But then I realized I had failed to get anyone's name, and I didn't know to whom I could report them without going through the entire bureaucratic snafu again. So I decided to text Evanora instead. You're not going to believe what happened. What, are you okay? Do you need help? It's my wall. I went to talk to some people about getting my wall fixed. Oh, I don't want to hear about your stupid wall, Moody. I'm researching wards. Well, it was super odd. Don't you have your own research to be doing? Look, I'll talk to you tomorrow, Moody. Evanora was right. Upon checking my email, I found that Nick had politely asked for more tidbits of research, as he put it. I went home, wrote until midnight, and then poured myself into bed where I stayed until 7, my dreams filled with men and women in green eye shades, sitting at a card table, digging into bloody steaks.
I love it. That was great. It needs more Mr. B. I want to hear more about this cat. Would, if you follow me at all on social media, you know I have a special, for cats.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love this. I can't wait to read it. And I was trying to think as I was listening, how much, and I always ask this question, how much of you is in Aaron Moody and so on? I mean, in dealing with, you live your life in a neighborhood for a long time and, you go through some things. And so I was interested.
I think I can shed some light on this. Just Mike and I worked together for several years at a local college. And I often saw Mike coming out of Miller's Quality Meats with a double armload of what could only be porterhouse steaks. And now I know a little more.
I occasionally have to bribe the diabolic. I'm not going to lie about it. Christine, are you asking me how much of me is in a sad middle-aged man at the bottom of the well of his life?
Hey, I would not have put it that way. I would not have put it that way. But since you did.
Well, I would like to say very little, but no. Moody talks a lot about. Someone asked me at a recent reading about what's the moral obligation of horror in terms of just.
Hey, we should get them on here. That's a better question than we ever asked.
That's astute.
And I think in this book, even though there are there's scares and there's obviously a demonic presence, a lot of the horror comes from just the dread of life, and Moody is at a place where he can't break away from his past and move on to where he needs to be. Evanora is caught up in this cycle of revenge. She's stuck in the past. And I think that, I can relate to that. Absolutely. This idea of when something ends and you try to hold on to it so bad because it's what you know and what's coming up is so terrifying. To me, that's where a lot of the horror in this particular text and a lot of the horror of life, quite frankly, for me, comes from.
Literally the devil you know.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yes. Even though you can look over and be like, yeah, this would be much better. It's like, nah, this is cool. I'll stay here in this house on fire because, I'm used to it. I know where the bathroom is.
Right. Well, so I had another question for you. We know you as poet Michael Dittman, and this is fiction. What is
I
that?
know. Wait a sec. I know him as snappily dressed Michael.
Yeah.
There's that too. So what is it like? What has it been like to change genres? And I know obviously as a writer myself, there's overlap and there's things you can take from each genre and so on, but was it difficult to sort of get into this prose writing, or was the story just so good that it propelled you forward? Or tell us about that process.
It was really difficult in a lot of ways for me because I'm used to a really compact form.
Yeah.
And there's even this element of like, I write short stories as well. And so I start out writing this and I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's a short story. And I'm like, oh no, wait, maybe this is much bigger. And there's that, that little twinge in your gut, as a poet where you're thinking like, okay, I'm going to write whatever, 14 lines. And this is how I'm going to set it up. I need to compress all these emotions and make it like super powerful and super, super strong. And then this idea of sort of like trailing these ideas out over, hundreds of pages and sort of coming back to ideas again and again and setting up these key images and these key words and plotting it all. I got good advice from a friend named Michael Northrup, who is a fantastic writer in himself. And he sort of showed me a technique that lots of people use. And that's, sort of plotting everything out on Post-its and moving it all around and handling that sort of that deluge of information and places that you need to get that way. I think one of the reasons why, I love writing, obviously, but I also really love editing. And one of the things one of the things from poetry that I was able to bring with this is this constant paring down, this constant taking away and taking away and taking away and taking away, and trying to make it so sharp and so fast and so strong, an economy of language. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's, that eternal question, but I think poetry is my first love, and, I will.
Well, we're glad you're cheating on it.
Yeah, right. A dalliance, shall we say.
Well, you certainly got a lot of feedback over here in the comments section. Audra Love has said, yay, Michael Dittman. That's good.
Rather unambiguous.
The Watershed, where you read recently, Watershed Books, we love those people in Brookville. They said, terrific read, great lead up from Moody's vague annoyance at something so bureaucratic and mundane to the odd and creepy that compels the reader to read on. And, in my life, I've felt that anything bureaucratic always leads to something odd and creepy. Take that as an academic. And then Rusty Barnes, one of our regular watchers, said he loves to meet another multiple genre writer. And Michael Leisure has said amazing. So it sounds like you've got some fans.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. I'm really glad. That is the interesting thing. And just, a shout out to you and everybody else at Appalachian Lit and WANA. As a young writer, I often had trouble sort of like meeting other people who were supportive and sort of like, it was much more competitive, and just, you, Christina and Damien and people like Karen and just the others have been so supportive. And the other thing that I found with this book, which I haven't found with other readings that I've done, is like everybody is so nice and so supportive. And it's just wonderful, quite frankly. Like very few people who I've talked to have been like, well, maybe that's nice. You wrote a book. That's cute. Which was a comment I actually got with my first book, but neither here nor there. Everybody's been just so wonderful about it. It's a great place to come now later in life.
Well, I feel like, those of us who really truly believe in supporting other writers, we found each other.
Yeah.
It took us a while, but we were out there like Jessica and the other crew from Watershed, always opening the door to us. And we do the same for them and West Virginia writers and Lit Youngstown and all these other partnerships that we have built. We just think that's so important. Build a bigger table. There's no shortage. There's no, limit that if you really believe that we're all in this together as writers who believe in the craft. That's what we should be doing, is saying, wow, this is great. Awesome job. Come on the show, or come read at the bookstore. Or how can we support you? You want to sell your t-shirts, or whatever it is, because I think we're all in those same trenches and doing that hard work, and it can appreciate that at the end of the day.
100%. It's not a pie, right? There's plenty of slices to go around. I was in Youngstown at an event earlier this week and met so many cool people, who I wouldn't have met had it not been for organizations like Lit Youngstown and other places. So it's just been fantastic.
Yeah, Karen Schubert and that whole crew up there at Youngstown, they're doing just absolutely amazing work. And I think we're finding that throughout Northern Appalachia, there's a lot of us that want to just build together instead of siloing off or, becoming some kind of reigning champion at the end of the day. It's all about, like, I want to promote your good work and his good work and her good work and everybody's good work, because it's awesome. The more readers we have, the better, right?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all buy each other's stuff. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think, I'll put a little bit of a different spin on it. The stakes in literary publishing are so high, it's shocking they don't lead to more knife fights and blood feuds. But no, I think also, just if you look at how to succeed as, I'm a little more nuts and boltsy about it, but how to succeed, it's like, be part of a movement.
Yeah.
If you look at like the visual arts, like, oh, if this is a group who's coming out of a region or coming out of a tradition, and people can, it makes more sense. Like, oh, if you like blank, then you might like blank, or, so I think there's also, just from an appeal to audience, getting, it's good for us to do this as well. To be a lot more like, mercenary about it.
Yeah, 100%. And I have to say just nothing but good things about Manta Press, who published this book. Tim has just been fantastic to work with, and really an experience like I haven't had with other presses. Very
that's really cool.
Yeah, just fantastic to work with. So,
well, no, I loved your description of contractors.
Oh yeah, right.
like, I felt like that was hard won. He lived it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our house is 115 years old, so there's always something spooky that needs to be fixed within it.
Right on, right on. Well, too, what you were saying about the difference between poetry and that building a book. Like, it's not about that one page of dread, it's about the 80 pages leading up to it that make people go, ah!
Yeah. That how do you establish that? Unless you rely upon just like slasherish, which this book is not slasherish in the slightest. That slow step, the uncanny, the Heimlich and moving up into this, how do you build that and make it successful? Isn't something that I had played around with in poetry at all. And so that was like a whole new skill that I had to learn.
That's cool. So we have a testimonial. Audra Love is saying, "Who Holds the Devil" is a captivating read. Read it in 3 days and loved it. And she brings up what I was going to ask. Looking forward to the next one. Congrats, Mike. I got to take care. But so what is next for Mike Dittman? Can we see you? Are you going to be reading somewhere soon that we can all see you in person, read longer than our show?
Yes. So it's been absolutely fantastic. Again, the response that I've had about readings. I will be at Never Ending Stories bookstore in Franklin, Pennsylvania, which is in Venango County, which is a great little shop. I'll be there on the 16th. I'll be in Coriopolis, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. I'll be here in Butler on the 20th.
Where are you reading in Butler, Mike?
Where the public library, actually.
Oh, super cool.
Yep. And I have a whole list of dates. If you go to michaeldittman.com, the dates are all listed there, and 2 more will be added shortly. So it's been a lot of fun. I really love getting out and meeting people and reading and answering questions. And so, anybody who's interested in that, or a workshop, I'm doing a couple workshops coming up. They should just give me a buzz and we'll work something out.
Very cool.
Thanks so much for coming on, Mike, again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to see you guys.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. And then if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, Mike, can you mind holding that up one more time?
I would love to.
Super cool. Who Holds the Devil from Michael Dittman. Available if maybe they can't make the reading work, they could find this on bookshop.com, some local indie book websites, Amazon.
Yeah, everywhere basically. So if you look at bookshop.com, you can your local indie place can order it. Amazon, bn.com, or any of the big brick stores. It's everywhere. So you can also order directly from the press. I should say manapress.com. You can order directly from the press as well.
Always good to support the local presses. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody. See you next week.